What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles. You've made the decision that you want to be a reptile breeder. Let's talk about how to take the next step with confidence. You've been a reptile keeper or you've been thinking about breeding for a long time, but you're overwhelmed on exactly where you should start. How many animals should you have? What you need to prepare for? This video is going to dive into all of those elements, and I want to know from you. I can actually expand some of these elements as individual video topics. So let me know in the comments down below as you watch this, is there something you'd like me to make a whole video out of because we didn't do an in-depth dive on that specific topic here. My first piece of advice is to start with one species. Where I see a lot of breeders or newer breeders going wrong is they start like a shotgun. They're going to breed ball pythons and corn snakes and leopard geckos and boas and all these different species. Pick one species that you love, one species that if you said this is the last thing on earth that I can readily attain and I want to breed it, pick that species. Learn everything about it. Learn their breeding behaviors, learn their gestation cycles, learn how to keep them properly, how to feed them properly. Do that just with one species. Don't expand too quickly all at once. Just learn that one species and pick it. This is the one I'm going for. Next element is to pair with purpose. Now, anytime I'm buying a breeding project, I've said it in the past, but I always recommend starting with at least a 2.2. If you can start with a 3.3 or a 4.4, that's even better. And if you don't know what that means, a 2.2 is 2 males, 2 females. 3.3 is 3 males, 3 females. But you need to have a group because things happen, things die. Sometimes your female will get 4 years raised up and your female dies or your male dies, and then all of a sudden you don't have a breeding project anymore. If you at least have a 2.2, you have a backup plan so that you can continue to make babies in the project in the direction you're going for. So make sure you're starting with the right group of animals. Be selective. Don't just buy whatever you think makes sense at the time. Put some time and research into understanding what you're buying and what it's going to make, because eventually you're going to be left with, you're building this collection 8 or 9, 10 different animals, and you're going to say, well, none of this is really compatible, or none of this is going to get me to my goal. You might impulse buy at a reptile show thinking you know what you're going to buy, or impulse buy online because you like the animal, but then you say, well, I don't have the right piece, so now you buy another one. And now, before you know it, you went from wanting 6 animals to you have 20 animals because you didn't put the research in up front. You bought with your eyes and not with your head. I think you need to buy with both. You need to make sure that you're buying things that you like, but also make sense as a breeder. It's also important that if you are already a keeper, you don't need to just make the shoe fit. Sometimes it's better to say, well, the animals I have or the animal that I have that I want to breed maybe isn't aligned with my goals as a breeder. So don't make the shoe fit. If you're looking for a breeding project, buy the breeding project that you're looking for. A lot of the times, if you reach out to different people, breeders, they'll give you deals on pairs, trios, or more. So consider buying things all at once if you can, but don't make your existing animals fit into a project if they don't fully align with your goals. You've gone through the process, you're a breeder now, you've purchased your animals. Before you pair the animals, think ahead. Make sure you have the right equipment and the right space set up. What you don't want to be doing is scrambling, man, my boas have babies or my pythons laid eggs, and now all of a sudden you're trying to get a rack in place or you're trying to get the caging and the thermostats, but you can't get those cages right away. You have 30 days to go buy yourself a baby setup, and you're trying to make a makeshift baby setup because the supplier has a 9-week or a 12-week lead time on their racks. This is something you need to think about in advance. Don't go on current lead times. It's not uncommon for a rack manufacturer to go from a 30-day lead time to a 12-week lead time. So consider this well in advance of needing it. Make sure you actually have the thing set up and ready to go before you even pair those animals. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, you have it for next season. But at this point, you're committed. You've already made up your mind. You're going to do this. You're in it for the long haul. So make sure you buy that stuff in advance. Another critical element is to prepare your animals for breeding. You need to make sure that these animals are in optimal condition. Breeding is not a season, it's a full year-long process, and it's something I go through my whole annual cycle so that by the time breeding season is here, where I'm actually pairing, it should actually be called pairing season instead of breeding season. By the time I'm actually pairing things, my animals are ready to go, prime, perfect condition, good health, no problems or concerns I have. this is what I'm going for, and I have my pairings all lined up. This is exactly what I'm going to try to make. With this, it's also super important to understand your animal's breeding cycle. Do you know when they typically pair? Do you know their ovulation cycle? How long that they'll be carrying the babies in gestation, and when you'll actually see the babies here? Understand this species thoroughly is going to help you with the whole breeding success. That can be done by watching videos like myself, reading books and literature, just asking people on Facebook and other social media platforms for help. But phrase it as, I'm a new breeder, I'm trying to do this for the first time, I've done my research, and this is part of my research. Can you guys help me out in understanding the full cycle? This is something you need to thoroughly understand before you even start. One of the most important aspects of breeding is to track everything. Now, every time I do my breedings and my pairings, I track it all. I have labels of when the animals go into shed, when they've locked, when they've ovulated. I actually will often take pictures of the locks just to confirm, and I save them into a separate folder. I back all those pictures up in case I need to reference them later on down the line, but track everything. Now, once you have babies, you want to track when they're feeding, you want to track their shedding possibly. I don't track weights on boas, but there's a lot of species where you track weights. Keep this detailed record. You will need it and the customers will appreciate it. And that's something you need to get in the habit of, is tracking. You can even make a little checklist or a note card on the cages of when your snakes are doing their normal cycle. There's a snake on the cold side. Are they wrapping in the water bowl? Are they on the heat? All this stuff over a couple years will build a mental memory of understanding the actual breeding process. Something that I can tell you, but it's a lot different when you actually see it happening in your own breeding groups. One of the most essential elements is to start building your brand now. Even though you don't have babies, there's still all kinds of stuff you can do to build your brand. You can post on social media showing the pairings, showing the adults, keep people updated. I saw somebody who was a customer of mine did something awesome where every day they took a picture of that animal, posted it up. It was just really cool. I was able to watch and follow along the daily progress of this animal. I could see her getting bigger, then skinnier, and then the babies were here. It was a really cool process and something that I don't see a lot of people do. So it caught my attention and I actually followed it. It was just interesting to kind of day in the life of that snake, watching her daily progress on the heat, feeding, whatever it may be. But start your social media and start your branding now. You do not want to do this once you actually have 20 babies sitting there and now you need to sell them. Another one of the most important, if not the most important elements of breeding is be ready to learn on the fly. Things are not going to go as planned all the time. You're going to have slug outs, you're going to have males and females that don't breed, you're going to miss the breeding year. There's going to be all kinds of stuff that you need to learn on the fly. So join a community like my Patreon group or whatever else you feel is necessary. Facebook groups, they're all free. My Patreon is paid. But things like this, connect with other breeders that can help you through the process. At least for the first year or two, it really helps to be able to just message somebody and know that they're going to respond with honest, genuine advice. I will say be careful who you take your advice from. Make sure that that person is reputable and you trust what they're doing, and stick with their plan. Don't veer from them. Don't get information from 10 different sources. Find the person you want to learn from, stick with them, learn from that person, and trust the process. But be ready to adapt as you go and have that person or that support group there that you can just ask questions to. It's very, very helpful and essential as you start to have this group or this person available to show you along the way, to coach you and encourage you through, hey, I just got some good babies, and they compliment it, all the way through nothing took. I don't know what's happening with the babies. What should I do next? So this is stuff you really need to have prepared for. Be ready to adapt, be ready to change. If you're thinking about breeding, I hope this video gave you a roadmap and not just motivational words. As I mentioned when I started this video, if there's something in here you want me to expand upon, whether it be equipment, ovulations, pairings, whatever it could be, drop it down in the comments. I want to hear from you on what you need more help on. Till next video, let's keep it moving.